Well, hello, and this is episode 40. And I just wanted to say that my heart and soul goes out to the Ukrainian people who've been under a vicious, unprecedented, and nonsensical attack from Putin. And I also sincerely hope that Putin is tried by an international tribunal for crimes against humanity. We did it in World War II, and we can do it again. I am praying for the brave and unfortunate people of the Ukraine. So, as you could probably see, I recently injured the area below my nose and above my lip. And I ignored the injury for a few days, and the cut was very deep and actually cut through the inside of my lip also. So it was almost like a hole. It was quite a hit I took, and when this metal strap hit me, I saw stars and was bleeding profusely. But I was very fortunate because if it was 2 inches higher and to the left, it could have done some serious damage to my left eye. And I was surprised that it didn't break a tooth. It took me 3 days before I went to the doctor, and my wife and I knew that I went past the point of getting it stitched up. So I could only treat it with Neosporin and Abreva. And as always, life leaves a trail of little stories at the doctor's office. Before I saw the doctor, the nurse came in and checked my blood pressure, my temperature, and weighed me in and started asking me the standard questions. And one of the questions she asked me was, "Are you sexually active?" Which kind of surprised me. So I replied by saying, "Well, define your terms." She smiled and hesitated, and I said to her, "No, I'm sorry, you don't need to answer that question. I was only joking." I guess I could say that I'm somewhat sexually active, our birthdays, anniversary, which amounts to like 2 to 3 times a year. I'm only kidding. I am 68 years old and we've been together for 37 years. So the shine is a little bit off the apple. And she was gracious and understanding and didn't have to tell me that that's way too much information. I'm going to read the typical forecast for the New England area. Or as Mark Twain once said, about New England, if you don't like the weather, just wait 5 minutes. So, okay, today will be 35 degrees and sunny, but we'll get much colder tonight with lows in the teens. Tomorrow, we'll reach a high of 65 degrees and it will rain toward the evening. On Wednesday, the temperature will drop back down to the 20s, and then Thursday, we'll be back up around 55 degrees. On Friday, we're going to get a blizzard with low temps back in the 20s. And who the hell knows what's going to happen on Saturday? I almost forgot to tell this story, which is true. This really happened to us on our honeymoon back in 1990. We were in St. Croix and we arrived back in our hotel after being on the beach out and about for the day. We decided to relax a while and both took showers to get ready for dinner. I was shaving after my shower, which was right next to our entry door to the room. And I started hearing a key jiggling on the door. And within a few seconds, the door opens and two women in bikinis enter. And I'm not making this up. I don't have the imagination to make this up. We all, including Mary, froze for a second and everyone hesitates and I ask in my underwear, "How did you get a key to our room?" And two women answered, "We got it from the front desk." Well, something obviously went wrong and they were very nice, admitted that something indeed did go wrong at the main desk and they left. We later found out that St. Croix recently had a severe hurricane a few months earlier. So they recruited quite a few carpenters and handymen from Florida to rebuild some of the facilities and apartments that were damaged. And consequently, they decided to also bring in female dancers and entertainers to keep the men entertained. I joked with Mary about this later on, saying that, "Wow, I thought I was going to get really lucky tonight." And that went over really well. When I decided to leave Amtrak after about eight and a half years of employment, and this was back in the 80s, I toyed around with the idea of getting a local job that offered growth and development, but eventually decided to pursue some entry-level positions in marketing and advertising in New York City. Since this being in the mid-80s, there was a ton of opportunities there. However, making a move from Amtrak to one of these jobs was not going to be easy. It was definitely a throw. So I had to come up with something that would somehow make me stand out, and I didn't want to lie, of course. Long story short, I get an interview with a media buying service in New York City. And in the interview, the executive went through the usual ordeal, the questions and the descriptions, etc. And he asked me the standard question, "Why should we hire you?" I knew my response was going to be critical and I was nervous. And I responded with a question for him, and it was just this: "Has anyone died in this job recently that you know?" He looked at me quizzically and asked me why I asked this question. I said, "Because the job I had at Amtrak entailed working outside in any type of weather except lightning storms. We sometimes had to drive 75 miles or more to a job site, And then on occasion, we had to work on live tracks, which meant that the trains could pass by, and we had to be prepared to remove everything from the track and get the hell out of the way before it came. And this could be nerve-wracking at times. There was many a close call, and I knew of 4 people that were killed at different sites over the years by either being struck by a train or a track machine malfunction. You can tell me that this job will be stressful, but I most likely won't be killed by it. If it gets too stressful, I'll let someone know, because the likelihood of me being killed here is not very good. He hesitated, looked at me square in the eye, and said, "That's a well thought out reply, and I can never prove what you said. But in all my years, I never heard a story like that." Well, a few days later, they hired me, and everything I said was true. And the job I got at this media buying service was quite stressful, and it was quite tedious to learn their ways. But I survived nearly 5 years as they were downsizing due to financial problems, and was fortunate to land another job just 5 weeks later as my newborn son was only 6 months old. Occasionally, my wife will mention that a certain person is a strong personality, when I usually have to inject my interpretation of the individual by reminding her that he or she is not a strong personality. They're just stubborn, self centered, loud, obnoxious, and immature. There's a difference, and I will stop here.